Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. Sunday, April the 20th, 5:04 a.m. with a big blue mug of coffee. Happy Easter Sunday to you. Hope you're having a great weekend wherever you may be. And I waited until this morning to do this video because I wanted to see what else was released regarding this story. And I'm going to say it. I don't like to use these words. I'm going to beep it out in post, but we are fucked. Excuse me. And that's because of Mark Carney and his Canada Strong plan, which he came out yesterday. But that's not the real reason that we are fucked. That comes near the end of the video. And again, this is not going to be a long video. We're going to go through a 37-second video that Mark Carney put out yesterday that is like a Jedi mind trick for the weak-minded here in our country. Stay to the end because it shows you everything that's wrong with the people who vote in this country. Like I say very often, never underestimate the stupidity of the electorate. Yesterday, Mark Carney came out with a plan that will blow the doors off our budget. How much money is this man going to spend, which he calls an investment? Let's hear it from Franco Terrazzano, who is the federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
Now, let me just read you Carney's deficit numbers over the next 4 years. 2025, Carney's deficit, $62 billion. 2026, Carney's deficit, $60 billion. 2027, $55 billion. And in 2028, $48 billion, folks. That is absolutely gross. Now, you add up those 4 years, Carney wants to add $225 billion to the debt.
The $225 billion, that's insane. And you have to ask the question, are those numbers true? Because you'll remember last year, the budget was supposed to come in, or the deficit was supposed to come in at $40 billion, and it came in at what? 62? That's why Chrystia Freeland stepped down. She walked. They were throwing her under the bus. Oh, by the way, she's still in Carney's cabinet in a different position. It's the same people. But to Mark Carney, $225 billion is not spending any money. That's the Jedi mind trick. That's the accounting trick that he's playing on people who believe him. Mr. Central Banker, Mr. Bank of England, Mr. Bank of Canada, he's not even spending that money. Well, let's watch his video. What's the first thing he says? First words that come out of his mouth.
I have a simple rule. Spend less, invest more.
Spend less, invest more. I've mentioned this on the channel. He's going to say this a lot more. Over the next week or so, he's going to say this a lot more because he's released this 67-page document. Spend more, spend more. That's his plan. Remember, the government only has what it takes from someone else. The someone else is you. If it taxes big business, which he's going to do with carbon taxes, it's going to get passed along to you, and you're going to pay for that. And there's something else that's coming that a lot of people don't know about, which we'll mention when we look at another clip. Let's move on.
Let's say you buy a home. The down payment and the mortgage cost a lot up front, but your home builds value over time. That's an investment.
No, first off, the elephant in the room here is the fact that people can't afford to buy a home. Because of the Liberal government, because of Mr. Economic Advisor to Justin Trudeau, allowing too many people into the country, not building enough homes. Guy's got a person on his staff, by the way, who wants 100 million people in our country by the end of the century, so he wants to flood the country with more people. We'll get to his housing plan in just a moment. But people can't afford to buy a house in this country because of the Liberals. Now, yeah, buying a home is an investment. I put $70,000 on a home down. I have to take out a loan. It's called a mortgage. And you have to pay that back. Carney never plans on paying back the money he's going to spend. $225 billion. And really, there's not a lot of economic benefit at the end for the country. Let me ask you this. We've doubled our debt over the last 10 years. Has your life gotten more affordable? No, it's gotten a lot worse with all that spending. We're talking about government here. Here's the other thing you got to think about. You have home equity. You own a house. It's probably the greatest investment you'll make in your life. The Liberals want to take some of that money as well. Here's Chris Sims, Alberta Director, Canadian Taxpayer Federation.
But we found documents through Freedom of Information that showed that staffers within the federal Liberal government, the current one, met with promoters of a home equity tax at least twice.
Now, you still have other bills like heat and electricity. You need them, but they don't make you better off in the long run. Those are operational expenses. I will balance our operational budget in 3 years. We'll spend what we need to, with the money we already have.
So a couple of things there. We'll spend what we need to with the money we already have. We don't have $225 billion. We don't have that. He's got to get that money from somewhere. He thinks the money that you have is his to spend. This is what liberals and leftists think. It's not your money, it's theirs to spend. We do not have $225 billion to spend. He's going to get it from you. He'll tax the bejesus out of industry, which will get passed along to you. So your life is going to get less affordable, not more affordable, is what you need. Now, the other thing he talks about is operational expenses. So let's look at this. This is from the Toronto Sun. Poll finds Canadians skeptical of Carney's claim to balance budget in 3 years. More than half of respondents doubt the Liberal leader can balance Canada's operating budget within 3 years. Who are the people who think he can? It plays easily when he says he's going to balance the operational budget. He's not balancing the budget. There's still that $225 billion that we've talked about here. But the other thing is here. Now, this is from the article, which isn't very long. Carney says he'll balance the government's operating budget, which he says is running a $9 billion deficit in the fiscal year, achieving a small surplus of $222 million in 2028-2029. However, the capital budget, which Carney renames as investments, will run huge deficits over the next 4 years, and that's the $225 billion that we've talked about. The Carney Liberals say their platform is fully costed, but that's what the Trudeau Liberals said in 2015 before blowing their deficits sky high. You remember in 2015, I think Trudeau said modest deficits of $10 billion. They never even got close, and they doubled our debt over 10 years. This is what you're going to get with this guy. We do not have $225 billion, like he says. Moving on to the next clip. This is the final clip of this 37-second video that Carney put together. Do you feel f***ed yet? Because this is really bad. The real f***ed up part is coming up in just about 60 seconds. Okay, so stay tuned for that. So let's look at this last clip.
And we'll do things that encourage the big investments that create jobs and grow our economy, like building millions of homes, making Canada a clean energy superpower, and creating new trade routes so we're not dependent on the United States.
So first up, he's going to subsidize business with your dollars. And let me just put it to you this way. He wants to create modular homes. His former company, Brookfield, heavily invested in modular homes. Heavily invested in heat pumps, which he wants to put in these houses. Brookfield was all about investing in clean energy, so he's going to probably reward his friends with windmills and solar panels, which cannot power a country like Canada. Too big, too cold, can't be done. We need baseload energy, oil and gas, which Alberta really needs, which Alberta will separate if this guy gets in, because he's not going to invest in oil and gas, because we can't put in pipelines, because he won't repeal Bill C-69.
Do you plan to repeal Bill C-69?
We do not plan to repeal Bill C-69.
And finally, he says we're going to create new trade routes so we're not dependent on the United States of America. Well, what does this mean? Well, this is a big one. There's a thing called the border carbon adjustment, which Mark Carney is all for. He's Mr. Net Zero. Europe is implementing this. So basically what happens if things come into your country that don't live up to Mark Carney and his net zero plans, it will be taxed, driving up prices for you. Donald Trump will not abide by this rule, the border carbon adjustment. So everything that comes from our biggest trading partner will have an additional cost, but that won't happen with Europe because they're adopting this plan. And he wants to hitch his wagon to Europe, who we do a very little amount of trade with. So keep that in mind. This plan is going to cost a lot more money. Now, there is a short little section at the end where he talks about spend less, invest more. That's all it says at the end. And again, I took the music out because I didn't want to get this video demonetized. But this is really fucked up, folks. We do not have this money and we cannot afford this person. He's trying to save us from Donald Trump and the United States. We need to be saved from Mark Carney and the Liberal Party if they get in. Now, here's the kicker. The real part. Okay, I'm going to put it right at the end here. And it's the people who are voting for this guy. This is really sick. Okay, really sick and demented. Thanks for watching this video. I do appreciate it. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Watch this.
Elbows up! Elbows